So little by little from there, several of our, there were many of our, I saw many killed. I saw maybe 30 of our people killed laying around in that village. From there it took maybe 3 or 4 weeks. They took us by military transportation,
3 or 4 weeks?
German, in a direction of Czechoslovakia, and eventually to Prague. And there we were interrogated by the newspaperman.
Which is the pictures that you have?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have picture of that. That picture, by the way, I want to then illustrate part of the book. And then this article was printed about us, what the prisoner of war were talking to Czech and then later to Slovak people, and how terrible life was in Soviet Union, how the propaganda was all lies. And later, when the Soviet Union won the war with the help of the American and the British, I was imprisoned. And
wait a minute. So you say the Germans just released you from after they started to lose the war? They just let you out of prison, right?
Yes, they released me.
They say they treated you pretty civil too. Did the Germans treat you pretty well in prison?
They treat us
better than the Gulag?
They treat us pretty well, yes, pretty well. And
then they just released you. What did they say? Hey, we're losing the war. Go ahead and go home. What did they say?
They released me to get back to Slovakia. I was in Prague, in the Prague during the several months held by the Germans as a prisoner of war, but we were treated pretty good. And the group of us, as I will show in the picture, several of us then were interrogated, and all those that was published, and they released us. I went back to Slovakia, and again in Slovakia I was traveling with a group of people who had some experiences of life under communism, and we were again traveling and telling people, in few cases school classes, and some correspondence.
What do you mean correspondence? Like letters?
Yeah.
Correspondence like letters and writings?
Yeah. And that was written in the newspapers. And at the end of the war...
Now this group was called what? The Anti-Bolshevik?
Yeah, I traveled with the exhibition, anti-Bolshevik exhibition, which was prepared in a railroad, 2 or 3 railroad cars.
Oh.
They were statistical information about the life under communism.
That was in these railroad cars. It's kind of like a little exhibition in the railroad cars. People could walk in there and see it.
Yeah, and traveled from town to town where people could come and see. And there were some people who simply didn't believe that it could be so bad under communism, you know. But later on they found out when the Soviet regime then took over Czechoslovakia. People found out because it was immediately started in Czechoslovakia. They immediately persecuted, imprisoned a lot of the church leaders. They tried to to damage, to destroy the religion,
Now
etc.
now when you were taken prisoner, you say, how did that happen?
Well, yeah. When I was released, I was helping my
When you were released from the Germans,
actually, and which was part of the then Slovak government to organize this anti-Bolshevik exhibition.
so this was still the Slovak government when you guys were still separate, Slovak and Czech, or no?
This was under Slovak and Czech, and of course it was also partially sponsored by the Germans,
Okay.
you know, because the Germans had control over those areas. And
And so you got together with these guys, and then you went on this tour, and then you quit the anti-Bolshevik tour, and you went home, right? To your farm with your dad, right?
But first,
Okay.
partially I was helping my dad. We had like a mountain farm in the mountains, mountainous area. So, and then I was traveling with this anti-Bolshevik exhibition and telling people how what I experienced in the slave labor camp, etc. And this was published in people who were criticizing Soviet Union. We were only telling the truth, but they didn't like to hear the actual facts of life there, the horrible conditions. So I was then arrested by the communist military police.
Did somebody rat you out? Did you say there was a guy in your village who was an informant?
Well, yeah, there was one fellow
Okay.
who probably had sympathies with the communism. Well, he was a naive youngster,
What was his name?
perhaps like I was when I left.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know what was the truth. And
What was his name? Do you remember his name? The informant?
I forgot his name. If I'm not mistaken.
So Michael kind of told him where you were, where to get you. Hey, he's up there.
He told the police, communist police, I guess the military police, which was infiltrated heavily by the communist GPU, the secret, the military police of the Soviet Union. It was already heavily influenced, and so they came up. 3 of the military police fellows came up to the mountains where I was helping my dad. We had some fields, growing some fields of potatoes and other crops, and arrested me in front of my dad. I guess he didn't know what was happening. And they took me down under guard, and from there gradually by military transport, by pickups usually, they moved us, me and few others, who they caught, back to Prague. And in Prague we were then investigated by the military police, and after a few months I was sentenced by the, what do you call the military?
KGB?
Well, it was
It was a KGB, but it was... Did they
told,
put you on trial? Did they put you on trial, kind of?
they put me on trial, the military tribunal, and all those guys who were talking the truth about the system and the communism, we were all sentenced to, I was sentenced to 10 years of hard labor by the military tribunal. I was just told I was sentenced to 10 years. But after a few months, when they realized that our speeches were widespread over the territory of the what's now Czech Republic and Slovakia, Moravia, they just called me to the office one day and told me that my sentence was increased to 20 years.
Now this is because they found a newspaper with your
they found that it was more widespread than they originally saw. And so I was sentenced
20
years of hard labor just because I was telling the truth about life in Soviet Union. The main reason they told me I damaged the name of our great allied power which saved Czechoslovakia from the German Nazi system, and that was the reason why I guess in the Soviet Union I would have been executed. I was lucky that I was just sentenced that in Czechoslovakia, although the communism had big influence, but it's still, they couldn't do quite as horrible things as they did in Soviet Union.
Because so you would have been executed in the Soviet Union.
Yeah. People still, there were many people in Czechoslovakia who knew Czechoslovakia had a high living standard. Before the war, it was a democratic government, and so all the people still realized, and many people already by then realized when they saw how the Soviets acted in Czechoslovakia after it fell to communism later. That it's not really a good, it's a terrible system of government.
So you went, where were you imprisoned at? In Prague?
I was imprisoned in Prague. I was there for 5.5 years in Prague, in military prison. And well, we had a military food and discipline, so it wasn't too bad.
Okay, now who were some of your cellmates?
Sometime there was a general from former Czechoslovakian general and several high officers, pilots. The Czechoslovakian Air Force escaped to England when Czechoslovakia, just before they were occupied by Germany, you know, and the government and the ministers and the pilots with their planes, they escaped to London.